Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli back with another review video, and of course, continuing on reviewing Halloweenish materials on the weekends. And that's right, you read the title and you know exactly what it is that I'm reviewing, but I'm not reviewing this alone because, well, you guys can tell, of course, that this is something Family Guy, and of course, I am wearing the shirt. I'm wearing a Family Guy shirt. Yeah, of course, this is something Halloweenish from Family Guy, and Family Guy being no stranger to having some Halloween episodes. Not just Halloween, but holidays in general. They've done Halloween, they've done Christmas, and they've sometimes done Thanksgiving. And I, of course, reviewed one of the Family Guy Christmas specials, if you want to go check that out. But, yeah. So, for this, well, obviously, have to review this, and seeing as how, because, in celebration of Family Guy's anniversary, and, yeah. So, that's right. I am reviewing the Family Guy Halloween special, Peter Pumpkin Cheater. And I'm not reviewing this alone, because, as I just said, because joining me, and, well, because we've reviewed a good chunk of Family Guy episodes and such, and he too, being a fan of Family Guy, one of my good friends, Anchorman, it's good to have you for this.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes. So, why don't we start with you, Anchorman? What are the first things you have to say about Peter Pumpkin Cheater and, what you thought of it?
I thought it was a decent special of a Family Guy, Halloween special, and I like the costumes the characters wear, and I like how the animation looks now, because it looks more like a modern, and like, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I don't really think nothing's really changed on the animation for Family Guy.
Yeah, and like, it used to look, because I've been watching some of the older episodes when I started watching it, and I saw like its evolution.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and anything else you've got to say, like, because what goes on in the episode with two stories?
I like the stuff they did with the pumpkin, and like the Brian and Stewie going up against Rupert, the teddy bear.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, there we go. So, starting off with you, and the first things you had to say about Peter Pumpkin Cheater. Now, coming to me, because the first things I have to say about the Family Guy Halloween special / episode Peter Pumpkin, well, I, of course, was aware that this was coming, that it was announced that there would be two Family Guy holiday specials, and one for Halloween and one for Christmas, which we will review that when it comes. And if you're watching this again, our review of the Family Guy Halloween special, we've done it by now. But anyways, now that Peter Pumpkin Cheater has finally come out, and now that we've gotten to see it, well, you heard what Anchorman had to say. For me, I thought it was pretty good. I think this, and I'm on the same level as you, Anchorman, because I think that this was a pretty decent Family Guy Halloween special. Now, yes, because Family Guy, nowadays, they would sometimes have a few good episodes, but yeah. But I think, when it comes to them having holiday episodes, whether if it's Halloween or Christmas, surely, because they wouldn't be that bad. It would always be a joy to see what the Griffins are up to during, whether if it's Halloween or Christmas, and what they've been up to and what happens with them this Halloween season. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And, as with Family Guy, sometimes there would be two stories going on, and in this case, yeah, that's what happens in Peter Pumpkin Cheater. It's not just about, what goes on with, say, a pumpkin, and, well, Peter having a big involvement with a pumpkin, but also something else going on with Stewie and Brian. And, that's another thing, usually, because anything to do with Stewie and Brian, everybody seems to really enjoy those. Even especially if it's the Road 2 episodes, absolutely. And basically, altogether, anything that only has to do with Stewie and Brian, only centering on them, yeah. But anyways, but yeah, just overall, I think that Peter Pumpkin Cheater was a decent Family Guy Halloween special. I wouldn't say probably it's the best thing that they've had in a while when it comes to holiday-themed episodes, but it's not bad, and from what me and Anchorman have had to say, our first thoughts. All right. So, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Peter becomes a human pumpkin to help Joe with Quahog's Great Pumpkin Contest. Stewie brings Rupert to life after Rupert immediately resolves to kill Brian. Okay, so getting into the episode itself, diving in it and so on. Because the Griffins, because they're at a Halloween store. It's not, when you would think of, say, a Halloween store, you would especially think of, say, Spirit Halloween, but, whether if they even considered having Spirit Halloween in this, I don't know, but yeah. And them just, roaming around the Halloween store, and Peter making a comment that, they can dress up in public or something, taking off their wardrobe, and we see Lois doing it, and for Stewie and Brian, well, Stewie has plans for what he and Brian will go as for this Halloween, Sonny and Cher. And there's a moment where, Chris is, using nunchucks. It's pretty funny. And Brian, well, because he is not liking this idea, and he apparently had other plans. Okay, what were they anyways? Why? Because it's like, yeah, he's trying to avoid doing anything with Stewie for this Halloween. And with Brian and Stewie back at the house, because them trying on the Sonny and Cher costumes and practicing some dance moves, but it ends badly, and Brian has had enough, and Stewie turning to Rupert, and Brian suggesting that maybe Rupert should be dressed up as Sonny. Because Stewie's had enough with Brian's attitude and such. But also, coming back to Peter, something going on with Joe Swanson, because he has planted a giant pumpkin, and for a pumpkin contest. Great Pumpkin Contest, basically. And because the green screen backdrop I have for this, and I'm sure some of you have seen the poster, it's a bit Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown themed. There's really nothing Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown in this. With the exception of, them saying Great Pumpkin, but that's different. But anyways, so again, Joe has planted this big pumpkin, and for the Great Pumpkin Contest, Peter Quagmire and Cleveland Brown, and, as of now, because the new voice of Cleveland Brown, Arif Zaire, if I'm getting his full name right, because, I had almost forgotten, and when listening to Cleveland Brown, it didn't pop in my head that, about the new voice of Cleveland, and just, because how good he is at doing an impression of Cleveland. It's amazing. It's like Mike Henry never stopped voicing Cleveland. It feels like he's still voicing Cleveland, even though he's not, the illusion and so on. But anyways, for a little while in this episode, and before the Great Pumpkin Contest, not costume, before it begins, because Joe is going on about the Great Pumpkin that he's planted and made, and at a certain point, all three, Cleveland, Quagmire, and Peter, they've had enough of listening Joe going on about the Great Pumpkin and such. But okay, we'll now come to you, Anchorman, because where I'm up to and what I've talked about so far, what do you have to say this time?
I do like how they go to the Halloween store, like Spirit Halloween. It reminds me of when I used to go there as a child.
Oh yeah.
And I do like the new voice of Cleveland Brown. His name is the YouTuber Azers.
Yeah. And anything on, with what first goes on with Stewie and Brian?
I like I don't know, it kind of has like a Brian Stewie plot where like Brian doesn't really like Stewie thinks Brian doesn't have friends, but then Brian tries to look for friends until he realizes Stewie's his friend, and that's all he needs. That's kind of like the theme of this episode.
Yes, exactly. Like in Brian, I think like making an excuse or something and trying to find friends and stuff like that. But yeah. But anyways, so what goes on next for Stewie? Because well, this is where he plans to bring Rupert to life. And Frankenstein vibes going on in that Frankenstein style, lifting Rupert in, through the rooftop, and with thunder, a thunderstorm happening, and when like Stewie was using power, and well, apparently it caused the internet to go out, and Meg and Chris, we can hear their voices in the background, them saying something about the internet going out, and Stewie telling them, you can last 2 seconds without internet, and stuff like that. So Stewie attempting to bring Rupert to life, and, well, it seems like it didn't work, and then later that evening, and when Stewie is in bed, he starts, talking with Rupert. Are you awake, Rupert? Oh, good. And talking about Brian, and at one point, wishing that Brian were dead, but he was just only angry and such, like nothing intentional or anything like that. And when Stewie does fall asleep, that's when, boom, Rupert comes to life. And Rupert, I was like, ooh, nice, because Rupert being voiced by legendary British actor Derek Jacobi. Now, I'm sure some of you would be familiar with Derek Jacobi, for me, because, well, best known for being in the Gladiator films, but, a lot of other great movies that he's been in. I know he was in Murder on the Orient Express, but he was also, I remember he was in an episode of Frasier, which actually aired sometime, like, right around when I was born and such. In an episode of Frasier, he plays this Shakespearean actor. Frasier and Niles are trying to get him back onto the stage to do some Shakespeare stuff, but it doesn't really go that well, and they discover that he was really awful at doing some Shakespeare. And he was also the Master in Season 3 of Doctor Who, when the Master made his triumphant return, and then Derek Jacobi regenerated into John Sims, but yeah. So Derek Jacobi voices Rupert, and, well, Rupert being British, very fitting, well, because, well, Stewie being British, but, still. And, well, Rupert did listen to what what he said, and wishing Brian were dead, and Rupert, well, obeying Stewie's wishes, and thus Rupert is planning to kill Brian. And then, like, out of nowhere, because as Family Guy would do out of nowhere moments, attacking a bag of Doritos and an announcer saying something about Family Guy, that was pretty funny. And by the way, because I could have sworn I was aware that at one point early on in Family Guy, Rupert did talk, and I actually looked it up, and yeah, because Rupert did talk once. It was from, old seasons of Family Guy, and if you would know this, Anchorman, but yeah, so there was a moment in the early days of Family Guy where there was just one moment where Rupert did talk, okay? But in this, yeah, so... Okay, but we'll come back to you, Anchorman, because the whole thing of Stewie trying to bring Rupert to life, and, well, at one point, Rupert does come to life. What do you think? What did you think on that?
I think it's crazy that he came to life, and now he's, like, after Brian, and it's, like, it creates tension for Stewie and him, but, like, he doesn't realize Rupert is alive at first until later in the episode.
Yes, and even though, because, yeah, he had already fell asleep, but, yeah. Yeah, and what do you think, because, well, Rupert, because he's British, and Derek Jacobi, his voice performance is Rupert.
I like it. I mean, I'm not too familiar with his work, but I think it fits perfect for Rupert.
Well, and as I just as I mentioned, examples on what Derek Jacobi has done. So yeah,
Yeah.
but anyways, so with that, coming back to Peter, Quagmire, and Cleveland, they attempt. I think, yeah, that same evening, or, well, actually, no, the next day, to try to get rid of Joe's pumpkin, just throw it out or something. But at one point, and as just a few steps from where it was, the bottom of it just breaks open, and yeah, the stuffing of the pumpkin guts basically spill out, and now they feel bad, and then trying to restore the great pumpkin, but then Joe coming out, he's got a gun out, and well, is he going to shoot them? What's he going to do? Well, no, because apparently he was going to shoot himself, but, Peter, Quagmire, and Cleveland, they were quick enough to stop him from doing this, and well, what now? Because now that the bottom of the giant pumpkin that Joe had planted is broken, and if there's no chance at all for his big pumpkin to enter in the Great Pumpkin Contest, what now? And well, like Peter coming up with a solution that maybe they can put the pumpkin guts back in and fix it up and patch it up, but there's no way that they can do that, and time's running out. And at one point, a truck is coming in and about to pick up the giant pumpkin. And then Peter has another idea. He can be inside of the pumpkin, and and have the bottom be covered and stuff like that, with him being inside of it. And thus, that's what happens. Thus, at the Great Pumpkin Contest, and Wild Wild West being there, and Wild Wild West being voiced by good old Sam Elliott, taking Adam West's place, basically like there to host the Great Pumpkin Contest. And it's mentioned early on because a competitor of Joe Swanson's of trying to win at the Great Pumpkin Contest is Patrick McCloskey. Yeah. And Patrick McCloskey being voiced by Glenn Powell. Yeah. And there's a mentioning of something between Patrick and Bonnie. Just pumpkin stuff, as they say. Okay. With Patrick being there and his pumpkin, but also Joe and the gang, with the pumpkin too, and Peter being inside of it, and at times hearing Peter's voice inside that pumpkin, and how at certain points he wants to get out of the pumpkin and go to the bathroom or something. And Wild Wild West announcing, whoever wins the trophy, wins the contest, can have pies free whenever going to like a pie shop or something. And thus, the contest beginning, and whom will win? Either Patrick or Joe. And ultimately, and to speed things up, Joe does win. And right before it was announced that he won, we do see Bonnie. Bonnie does appear, and of course, being voiced by Jennifer Tilly. And ultimately Joe wins, and what happens next, and they didn't see this coming, the pumpkin is being taken off to a pumpkin contest state. Like, do you remember, Anchorman, like what that's about, with where the pumpkin's going to?
I think it's going to like a field with a bunch of other big pumpkins.
Yeah.
Decide who the winner is.
Yeah, even though Joe had won, but apparently there's still more to this, but yeah. And well, they know that this is bad, and they have to get Peter out of there. So yeah, and coming back to Stewie, because well, by this point, Trick or Treat has happened, and Stewie already dressing up as Cher, and Meg, and can't forget to mention and point out, the cast members, from Seth Green, voicing Chris, of course, and Mila Kunis as the voice of Meg, and Alex Borstein, Lois Griffin, and Seth MacFarlane, Peter, Brian, and Stewie. Because, we see Meg. She's in her cat costume once again, and Stewie and Meg notice, Meg first notices someone who looks like Stewie's teddy bear Rupert, and thinking that he's dressed up as Anthony Kiedis, if I'm saying his last name right, having a connection with Cher, but yeah, if you know, and with Anthony Kiedis, so, but really, of course, Rupert is dressed up as Sonny, and thus, Stewie realizing that, it worked. Rupert is alive, and, well, Rupert laying in on Stewie that, he's going to kill Brian, but Stewie assuring Rupert that he wasn't being for real about, wishing that Brian was dead. He was only angry, but no. Rupert is taking this serious. He is, wrongfully so, taking, obeying the Stewie's wish of Brian being dead, and thus Rupert, about going to find and kill Brian. Even early on, when he tried to attempt to kill Brian, he took a knife from the kitchen, and Brian, trying to find a friend, and thus he does so. John something. Do you remember who it was? By any chance, Anchorman?
Who Stewie or Meg was talking to?
No, Brian, who, he tried to make a friend with.
I forget who the name was, but I don't know, I think it was just one of his friends. I don't know if it was, from earlier seasons, or it's, a new character.
Maybe more likely a new character. I think so.
Probably.
And if I remember to do so, viewers, I'll put the name of, Brian's, friend he tries to make friends with in a text. So, yeah. And to mention the other voice cast members of this episode, Ralph Garman, Demian Faye, if I'm even getting his full name right, Kevin Michael Richardson does a voice in this, Danny Smith, Josh Robert Thompson, Elena Abach, and John Veneer, so, which they've done they've been in a good chunk of Family Guy episodes, Jennifer, Alana and John, but even, of course, Kevin Michael Richardson, most notably for Cleveland Brown Jr., but anyways, so, again, Brian trying to make a friend, and, his, new friend saying that he'll be at the cemetery watching a horror movie, and Brian is down to attend, and, and also because there's one moment with, another moment with Meg where she's run into by John Herbert, a.k.a. Herbert the Pervert, of course being voiced by Mike Henry, and Herbert, commenting about him trick-or-treating and such, and going to a house, trick-or-treat, I'm a sex offender. God. Oh my gosh. Family Guy, and with what they do, just, how they get away with it, but, yeah. But we'll come back to, we'll come to you, Anchorman, because with what I've talked about so far right now, what do you have to say?
I like Meg's costume in it, and the Herbert the Pervert scene was hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely. So, and when it comes to, coming back to Joe and Cleveland and Quagmire, because them going to where the pumpkin that Joe won, Joe's pumpkin that won the Great Pumpkin Great Pumpkin Contest. I gotta slow down. Them, because, there's a lot of other pumpkins, and it could take a while to try to find him, but they just so happen to be right behind Joe's pumpkin, and Peter, talking in the pumpkin, and then Patrick McCloskey shows up, and just, curious on why Joe is here, and so on, and, well, at one point, Peter can't take it anymore, and he pops out of the pumpkin, and there are two judges who are husband and wife, because they were there, looking at the pumpkins, and they see that Peter pops out of the pumpkin, and then apparently a lot of other people start to pop out of the other pumpkins, and what's going on basically? Joe and the others had no idea, and this was a coincidence, and well, basically because Patrick going on to Joe about pumpkins not lasting long, and just fat people being put in the pumpkins so they can still look pretty good for the Great Pumpkin Contest. And apparently for Patrick's pumpkin, he has his chubby son be inside of the pumpkin, and right before Patrick leaves, it's just pumpkin business and pumpkin stuff, and driving off, and Joe saying, I gotta rethink myself, however he says it, I think I might be in love with him. God. And we'll come back to you, Anchorman, because you didn't have anything to say on Patrick, but what do you have to say when we come up to what goes on, and when it's revealed that it's not just Peter, but others that are inside of pumpkins.
I think it's hilarious. I like the idea that they put a bunch of just fat people in these pumpkins, and that's why the pumpkins are so big, because there's too many big people in it. And I do like how the pumpkin guy. I like the idea that the way he's dressed is like it's like a pumpkin themed.
Mm-hmm. And he's got pumpkin themed shades.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, but overall, because like, what did you think of the new character Patrick in this?
I thought it was cool. I hope we can maybe see him again if they do another Halloween special.
You never know. I mean, they've sometimes had characters who haven't appeared that much, maybe in a few episodes or maybe just one. They've done that sometimes. I know that Vinny came back for at least one more time. So they've done that sometimes. So just have to wait and see. So that's it for what goes on with Joe and Quagmire, Cleveland, and Peter. Most notably, Joe and Peter. So, and coming back to, with what goes on with Stewie, Brian, and Rupert, well, Brian, is at the cemetery, and, well, Stewie saw on Brian's Facebook where he's at, and then Stewie gets a notification on someone who has passed away. God. And then coming to the cemetery, and apparently because the best describe, like, the horror movie that Brian is about to watch at the cemetery, because with, like, I don't know, big boobs or something, how they say it, but yeah. And everybody, we can see that some of the people there are, sitting on top of tombstones, and Brian, put on a blanket, and it's covering a flat tombstone, basically. And this woman showing up and asking Brian if he can move and to place flowers on her dad's tombstone, but Brian, saying no and expecting his so-called friends to show up, and yeah. And then at one point, Rupert shows up, and Brian's seen Rupert, and another mentioning of Anthony Kiedis, and Brian has to make his way to the bathroom and asking Rupert if he can wait and see if his friends show up and give them a signal, like, saying Will Ferrell's name or something, and thus Brian making his way to the bathroom, but, well, little does Brian realize that his life is in danger, and Rupert, his chance now to kill Brian, and when Stewie arrives, Brian is nowhere to be seen, and he's not back in the spot where he was. And, well, Stewie asks somebody if by any chance seen a dog and a teddy bear dressed as Sonny. The guy laughs at it, and then Stewie, realizing and making his way to the restroom that, Rupert is trying to kill and strangle Brian, and Stewie stepping in, trying to take on and stop Rupert with what he's doing, and commanding him and obeying him, ordering him to not kill Brian. But Rupert, he won't stop. He will do whatever it takes to kill Brian. And, the comments about, friends and, the relationship with Stewie and Brian, and ultimately what happens is, as much as Stewie hates to do so, he drowns Rupert in a toilet and starts singing a Cher song, "If I Could Turn Back Time," and the mascara runs out, Stewie's cheeks, because with the makeup he has on. Oh my gosh, it's funny. And ultimately, Rupert does die. Rupert is defeated. And things are patched up now between Brian and Stewie. Brian feeling guilty and apologizing to Stewie, and, well, Brian's so-called friends never showed up and such, and and thus they can do trick-or-treating now, etc. And, but now, and we'll come back to you, actually, no, because the very last, right before we come back to you, Anchorman, I'm sorry, because there's one last scene, it's very quick, where, the epilogue of the episode, Lois is washing and drying Rupert in the laundry, and everything's back to normal now, and Rupert, still the same old Rupert, back to his old Rupert self, not alive and such, and Stewie talking to Rupert on what had all happened on Halloween night and such, and Lois's comment on, I wonder what they talk about, just whatever she says. Okay, but now we'll come back to you, Anchorman, because what goes on towards the end of the episode with Stewie trying to stop Rupert, and things are patched up between Brian and Stewie, and, Rupert back to his old Rupert self. Just, what do you have to say?
I thought it was intense. I saw him choking Brian, and then he tries to stab him until Stewie just drowns him, and then he just pretends nothing happened to him, and then Lois just washes him, and then Stewie just continues to play with him, and then Lois has no clue what happened at all.
Not at all. I mean, because, still doesn't understand Stewie. Am I right?
Yeah, they don't understand him ever.
To this, still. Even, with the exception of that one episode where Stewie said his first word and they were in church, and, it was bleeped, but assuming as though he said the F-bomb, so with the exception of that episode, but nothing's changed, and with that one time where Stewie said his first word, and, only Brian's still understanding him, and Chris at times, he did understand Stewie, but, but that was a pretty good way to end the episode, Rupert back to his old Rupert self and such. What do you think?
It was cool, I guess.
Okay.
But never know if he'll come back to life again.
Yeah. But also
remind me it kind of reminded me how Ted came to life, but instead Rupert comes to life and he's evil.
Yeah. But that being different with Rupert and Ted and how each of them came to life, but
Yeah.
But overall, because that was a funny way to end it off, and very nice to see that, Rupert is back to the same old Rupert, not alive, and just a plain, stuffed teddy bear, Stewie's teddy bear, but So, the Family Guy Halloween special / episode, Peter Pumpkin Cheater. It was a pretty decent Family Guy Halloween special / episode. Not bad at all, and as what me and Anchorman had to say, and where the Family Guy Halloween special / episode was going with its story and what was going on for each of the characters. One thing that's happening with Joe and Peter, along with Quagmire and Cleveland with the giant pumpkin, and with what's going on with Stewie and Brian, and with Rupert. Just overall, Peter Pumpkin Cheater, it was a pretty good, not bad, decent Family Guy Halloween episode / special. Yeah. And now we'll turn to you, Anchorman. The last things you have to say, your final thoughts and results on the Family Guy Halloween special / episode.
I thought it was a pretty solid, decent Halloween special. I don't think it was as good as the other Halloween specials I've seen in general, but I think it was fun. But it was cool seeing all the characters come together.
Mm-hmm.
And that pumpkin, I thought that was funny, and the return of Herbert the Pervert was funny.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And I thought Cleveland was cool in it, since I love Cleveland Brown.
One of your favorite Family Guy characters.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so there you go. What are our final thoughts and results on this Family Guy Halloween episode / special, and how we rate it. We'll start with you, Anchorman. How do you rate this episode?
Probably a 7 out of 10.
The same goes for me. Same thing with me. For both me and Anchorman, we give this 7 out of 10 stars. 7 out of 10 stars for the Family Guy Halloween episode / special, Peter Pumpkin Cheater. And what about you guys? What did you think of the Family Guy Halloween episode / special itself, Peter Pumpkin Cheater? Do you think that this was not that bad? Which are some of your favorite Family Guy Halloween episodes. Could this be one of them now? I don't know, but, you can let us know. And what were some of your favorite moments in this episode? And what'd you think of the whole thing of, with what goes on in this Family Guy Halloween episode / special with, with the giant pumpkin of Joe's, and with Rupert coming to life. Yeah. And with what me and Anchorman had to say, and with our review, and yeah, what did you think of our review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed our review of the Family Guy Halloween episode / special, Peter Peter Pumpkin Cheater. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and we'll see you guys in the next video / review. And it was good to have you for this, Anchorman. I'm glad that we've gotten to review this.
Thank you for having me on.
Yep, anytime. And, anything that has to do with Family Guy or whatever else. Yeah. And any last words? Say goodbye?
Farewell.
He says that. For me, thank you very much for watching, and more Halloweenish reviews are on the way still, on the weekends. Yep, just be on the lookout still. Take care, and until me and Anchorman review the Family Guy Christmas special, peace out.